Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hereford Means Business Networking Online. It's really good to see some new faces, and we've got an exciting speaker with us again this time. We've also got our expert panel with us as well. So we'll just go through everyone, so a bit of a meet and greet. So if we go through the H&Biz team to start with, we've got Kim, give us a wave, and Ollie, and Kerry, and Richard somewhere. And we've also got our panel. We've got Sharon Pocock from Kinder Pocock Accountants, and we've also got Caroline Knight, our HR guru. And also with us today is our guest speaker, all the way from Wales, is Shamaine Robinson. It's great to see you.
Thanks,
as well.
Richard.
Okay, so how the event runs, if you've not joined us before, if you've got any questions, dying questions you're wanting to ask, then put a Q or put a comment in the chat box, and we'll come on to the questions as and when. We have got some questions that people have submitted beforehand, and hopefully we'll get onto those as well. The meeting is being recorded, and what we'll do is we'll put that onto YouTube. We'll also send you all a copy of the chat and the link to the YouTube when the meeting's finished, so you can all go back and watch it again if there's anything you want to see, or if you do have to leave early, then that's absolutely fine. You can catch up with the rest of it then. So that's it. I think there's a couple of people trying to get in, but I think what we'll do is we'll make a start with our guest speaker for today. That is Shamaine. And Shamaine, your LinkedIn profile says you are helping female business owners charge their worth, working with clients you love, doing work you're passionate about, and your business, I love the name of your business, marketing without the BS. So I'll hand over to you. You can delight us with your talk for today, which is about marketing top tips. Over to you.
I've got one question for you, Richard. I meant to message you before we start, because I can talk. Richard's met me before, so he knows I can talk for Britain. So what's the time scale that I've got? I should have asked you this, really, shouldn't I?
Yeah, probably about 25 minutes, half an hour. If I start waving at you like that, sort of about
I'll just wave back.
Yeah, you can wave back, but if I start waving, it's because we're probably running out of time. If that's all right.
All right. Cool. Thank you, Richard. I was very lucky. Richard asked me to come and talk at Hereford Means Business about 2-3 years ago now. So I was delighted when you messaged me and said, would I come and be your guest speaker this month? Thank you for the nice introduction. I've just updated my LinkedIn profile. Guess who's doing the Helen Pritchard challenge this week? Yes. A little bit about me, because most of you don't know me. My name's Shamaine. I've been in marketing since I was 16. So I'm 51 this year, so I've been in marketing a long time. Been self-employed for nearly 20 years this year, and a bit of an entrepreneur, really. I started off doing marketing, and then I go and off and do other things, and then I come back to marketing, and I go off and do other things. I come back to marketing. I always come back to marketing because no matter what I do, people are always messaging me going, so how do I do this? And how do I do that? And change my business name. I started off as Genesis Marketing, and then my personality is I'm a very blunt and I'm very to the point person. So when I come to rename my business about 8 years ago, adding the BS onto the end of it was kind of suited me perfectly. And people I knew in 4N at the time and BNI were like, yes, that's definitely you. Before I was self-employed, I worked for corporate, cut my teeth in places like Coca-Cola, HSBC, BT. I kind of started at grassroots because I didn't actually know what marketing was when I started my first job at BT. It just looked like fun. I thought, oh, this is a fun department. So I took myself off to night school, studied a Chartered Institute of Marketing qualifications. And then when I suddenly found out in 1999 that I was pregnant, which was kind of like a medical, it was a bit like Virgin Mary kind of moment, because I should never have had children. And my life changed overnight, really, because I was working in the city doing 18 hours a day thinking, am I going to bring up this kid as a single parent? So that's actually how I left the corporate world. And then I started to do a lot of work for like an organisation called Business in Focus. And what I started to see was small businesses were doing a lot of what I call brand marketing. So they were copying what the big boys were doing, spending a lot of money on advertising, putting ads in newspapers and magazines at the time, not getting any return on investment, and pretty much going bankrupt before they'd even started, and crying because nobody was coming through their doors. And I would rock up and I'd go, well, it's pretty obvious really, isn't it? Nobody knows who you are, so why are you paying for an advert? And they would cry a lot more at that point because they probably just spent about £10,000 on an advert. And I was like, well, nobody knows you. It's like, you know, pick up the phone. I'm not picking up the phone. I'm not talking to people. Oh my God, don't make me talk to people. It's like, well, what are you in business for then? So my approach is really direct, to be fair. And I tend to get my clients to just like work on a couple of marketing tactics, because you really don't need to throw the kitchen sink at everything. And I've had massive conversations over the last 16 weeks about like social media and what activity you should be doing. So that's a little bit about me. I am passionate about marketing, and I'm really passionate about businesses exceeding and excelling, and actually it can be done really simply with such simple tactics. For the last 4 years, I've helped businesses move online and go from the one-to-one to the one-to-many kind of scenario. And I did laugh when we went into lockdown and certain big brands announced that they didn't even have a website. And I was like, seriously, how can you not? You know, did you not see Toys R Us? Toys R Us went to the wall because of they didn't have a website back in the day, and they pushed everything through Amazon. So I've got a couple of questions for you. So we've been in lockdown. They reckon we're into like the 105th day or something like that. So have you been marketing during this time? And if you haven't, what's been stopping you? Okay. So, because I've talked to you a little bit about brand marketing, but think about a brand that you really love, and I'll give you for instance in a minute. It's not a brand I really love, but I'll give you a scenario. Think about a brand that you really love. If you suddenly stopped seeing them, how would that make you feel? You know, something that you absolutely love. So a prime example for me, I don't love this company, but a prime example for me is I have an autistic son. And one of the ways that I could control him is when we were out and about was to take him to McDonald's, because if I could shove a Big Mac in his mouth, it shut him up for 5 minutes and I had some peace and quiet. And we used to do, because he's 21 now, he's in university and he's a boy, so he's forgotten who his mother is unless he wants money. Funny how that happens, isn't it? And we used to go on lots of holidays and experiences. So I took him to Iceland. I wanted to see the Northern Lights, and I took him to Iceland about 6 years ago and didn't think anything about it. You know, I knew they'd been through a recession, that they'd hit hard times, and arrived in Iceland, no McDonald's, not one single McDonald's in the whole of Iceland. They pulled out in 2008. And when they wanted to come back in, Iceland went, you're not coming back in. You left us, we're not having you back. So for 4 days, I spent 4 days, every time I saw a red sign, I was like that. Oh, it's the big M's. So to be in a country where there was like no McDonald's absolutely blew my mind. And I was quite thankful when we landed back at the airport and I could shove a Big Mac in his mouth, because he did literally, he had an episode in Iceland, but that's, if you've got autistic children, you understand what an episode is. So if you've not been marketing and you've not been showing up, how do you think your clients or your customers are feeling? You know, because the way that you feel about one of your brands not showing up is the exact same way that they're feeling about you. So a lot of it over the last 16 weeks has been a mindset issue. We've made in a lot of businesses I've spoken to, I keep looking down because I've got notes, sorry. A lot of businesses have made assumptions. I can't sell. This isn't the right time to push anything. It's all a bit sleazy. It's all a bit salesy. Well, you know, Amazon have just taken over the #1 brand in the world, slots. They've taken it off Apple. They're trading at pretty much £33 million an hour at the moment. And 91%, there's been a 91% of increase in online sales in the last 16 weeks. So I know a lot of that's retail figures, but people are still buying. I've bought more for my business in the last 16 weeks than I've bought in the last 2 years. I've bought courses, I've bought equipment, I've bought help, I've bought advice, because I know that I need to get, when we do, I mean, I've been very busy, but I want to make sure that that momentum keeps up. So this assumption that people aren't buying is just a false assumption that's going on in between your two ears, because people are desperate. They are still desperate to buy things. And one of the mantras that I always say is, to sell is to serve. So if people are ready to buy things and you don't show up, or you don't put your offer in front of them, they will potentially go off and buy it from somebody else because they want it. Ironically, because if you've been in business a while, you might have experienced this, they tend to go off and buy it from your competitors. You tend to hear about that quite quickly, and that tends to leave quite a nasty, well, for me, it leaves quite a nasty taste in my mouth, especially when I'm standing in a networking meeting looking at the people going, I really should have closed that deal on you because I now know that that person's going to stitch you up, and then I'm going to have to listen to you moan about it for the next 6 months because I know how that person operates. So does any of that resonate at all? You know, like who's prepared to be honest with me and say that they've stopped, they've done very little marketing in the last 16 weeks? Or who's going to put their hand up and say, oh, well done, that's really brave of you, thank you. And who's going to put their hand up and say and another one's put their hand up, thank you. Who's going to say that they've knocked it out the park and they haven't stopped marketing? They've been out there selling. Yay! All right. See, men. It's men. Right. I'm going to pick on the men a minute. Oh, well done. Thank you. One lady put her hand up there. So the ones that have been out selling, how have you found it? You know, do you think, has it been going okay? Or do you think it's been difficult? Anybody want to say anything?
Been okay.
Yeah. It's been okay, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been difficult. It's been difficult for me because I'm on site. So I'm selling a service that's sort of a face-to-face thing. So.
But have you still been marketing, Paul?
Yes, very much.
Yeah. So that at least you've been, for the ones that is face-to-face. Yes, it is very difficult. And I appreciate that, but at least you've shown up and you've still been marketing, because even though you can't get in front of your clients, they will appreciate the fact that you are still giving value and you're still giving them tips and advice. Prime example of a face-to-face industry is my hairdresser. I haven't heard a bean off him. 25 years I've been going to this hairdresser. I haven't even had an email or a phone call. So yes, I'm going to somebody else now, because I worked out exactly how much money I've given this company over the last 25 years, and he can't even pick up the phone or give me an email. So yes, I won't be using his services again. Told you I was a bit direct, didn't I? But if you do sell a face-to-face service and you have been showing up, then I take my hat off to you, because that does require a level of momentum and consistency, and it will absolutely pay off for you in the next 6 months as people start, because you will be in the forefront of their mind. It will be a lot easier for you to sell your services, potentially at a higher price as well to them, because you've kept in touch with them. So do you know what? I hate the sound of my own voice. So here's my top 5 tips for you. You have to show up. Right? Showing up is otherwise known as visibility or consistency. You know, it's like we can all give advice, tips, whether you sell a product or a service, you can still give advice and tips. I had an interesting conversation with a lady the other day who does reflexology. She's done nothing in the last 16 weeks. And I said to her, how do you think your clients feel about that? And she said, well, I can't access them. I can't get to the shop to see them. I said, yes, but you could have sent them tips and advice on how they could have still looked after themselves during that period. And she burst into tears. She's like, I hadn't even thought about that. I said, because if they've got an illness or an ailment and they're coming to you, it's not gone away in the last 6 weeks. It's actually got worse. So you have to show up. You know, visibility to any business is critical. It's got so noisy on social media. It is unbelievable. So that, you know, and people have started businesses in this time as well. It's important that you connect with your customers. Even if you can't sell something to them, just have a conversation with them, ask them how they are. You know, when was the last time somebody just had a conversation with you, just asked you how you were, didn't sell you anything? How did that make you feel towards that other person? Okay, it's like, oh my God, somebody wants to talk to me. Hang on, somebody actually wants to talk to me, and somebody's prepared to listen to me. And one of the big ones is like, where are you actually hanging out? Because 9 times out of 10, we hang out, when we are being visible, we tend to hang out in our comfort zone, not where our clients are. Hence the reason why I'm doing Helen Pritchard's LinkedIn challenge, because actually most of my clients come from LinkedIn. But I find LinkedIn quite boring and quite depressing. So, you know, if I'm having a bit of a bad day, I want to hang out on TikTok and do all the dancing, you know, because I'm 51, I can still shake my booty. Not that my son would appreciate that at all. And, you know, you showing up is about you creating a plan for yourself. You don't have to show up 5 hours a day. You could just show up once a week. But if you're just showing up once a week and you're giving something of value, people appreciate it, because you think of how your people have interacted with you over the last 16 weeks. And actually, if you're looking to build a brand, visibility is 80% of brand building, because it's about how people see you, how they perceive you. You know, to build a brand is all based on emotional connections, and that's, people do that through how visibly you show up. Whether you know, even if you just walk into a networking meeting. Do you remember those days when we could network and we could walk into hotels? And, you know, even when you walked into a room, people made an impression. You made an impression on people straight away before you've even opened your mouth. So my tip number 1 is show up. Tip number 2 leads me very nicely into how do you add value? Because the only thing that is running through your customers' minds is, what's in it for me? You know, they don't want to know that you've been in business for 20 years. They don't want to know you've just got this qualification, that qualification. They want to know straight away, what is the problem or the outcome? Whether you're selling a product or a service, you know, product, I've got a 16-year-old birthday next week. Have you got a gift for me? Just show me an image. You know, if you've got a service, it's like, how can we help you? You know, one of the things I do is I help people charge more. All my clients in the last 16 weeks have put their prices up, and they've closed every single deal they've gone in front of their clients to do. One woman, actually this blows me away, because even I can't get my head around this one. One woman increased her price. She does training. She increased her price from £500 an hour to £1,500 an hour, and secured a 6-month online training deal with a French bank. And she phoned me up to say, and this was all done in the space of 24 hours. And she phoned me up, and I just swore down the phone quite a lot at her, because I just didn't know what else to say. And even now I'm like, I still can't believe that she sealed this deal. So how do you add value? We tend to, let's go back to the days when we were all networking. We've all been there when you've walked into the room, you haven't even taken your coat off, you haven't got your coffee, you're like, oh my God, what am I doing here at this time? And somebody shoved a business card in your face, and you're like, go away, go away before I hit you. And then they're trying to sell you your services. You know, marketing isn't about that at all. Marketing is about finding out what your clients want and giving it to them. You give them what they want, and then you sell them what they need. I know everybody needs a marketing strategy, and I know everybody needs a marketing plan. That people don't want to buy marketing strategies, and people don't want to buy marketing plans. What people want to buy is, I can get you 10 clients in 2 weeks. Is that something you're interested in? Yes, please. Well, let's sit down and have a chat, because that's what I do. So I sell them what they want, because they want 10 clients in 2 weeks. And once I've nailed that, I'm like, well, let's look at your marketing then. And they're like, yeah, okay. Because I gave them what they wanted to begin with. So how does your business add value? And it could be something really, really simple as the fact that you just return the phone calls, or you do what you say you're going to do when you're going to do it. Or if you've got a product or a service and you've got a product and you've sent something out to somebody, you just had a tiny little thing into it, you know, nothing that's cost your business an awful lot of money, but it's just like that extra touch. So to give you an example, I've got a client who's a foot healthcare practitioner. So she had some foot creams and stuff lying around. So what she did in the first 2 weeks of lockdown was she packaged those up, and she put little packages together, and she went and delivered them and left them on her clients' doorsteps. It's not really cost her anything, because most of the stuff that she had was samples to begin with. And the clients think she's amazing. And when she was allowed to go back and do emergency work, she had 2 full days. She's got 2 full days constantly booked for the next 6 weeks now, because clients are just like, not only can they wait to see her, but the fact that she took the time out just to take these little parcels around to people, and she put little tips in on how to look after their feet and things like that. So the added value doesn't have to be anything that's costing you anything. And only you know how you can analyze that with your clients. And sometimes, actually, Paul, I've actually written this down. So it's like, how can you pivot during this time? What can you do? And one of the things I've put down is, if you're a photographer, you could show people how to take pictures online, you know, how to take the best selfie, how to use the camera equipment. I've been invited to a networking event tonight about how to take the best selfie, which did make me laugh, because I do think, like, when was the last time we saw a picture of a selfie? Selfies have been replaced by food, because women won't take a picture of their selfie at the moment because they haven't got their hair done. You know, they don't want to show their grey hairs off. But it's like, as photographers, there's loads of tips and advice that you could give to people to show them how to do things with the equipment that they've got. And then obviously you can go back in then afterwards and upsell them to a higher package. It's like, well, yes, you've taken pictures of the kids in the garden, and yes, they're brilliant. However, do you want a nice family portrait done for Christmas? That kind of thing. And they will appreciate it more, because most people don't know how to use these things. You know, all we do is access social media and text on them. And when you're adding value, none of you are allowed to give any discounts. That is not happening. You know, you do not give money off. That's money off. It goes into your pockets. It's taking money off. It's taking money out of your mortgage. It's taking money out of your food. It will take you about 30 minutes to sit down of something that you can bolt on, that is going to be massive to the client that you are, you know. I'm going to pick on Paul again. For some reason, I've got photographers in my head. But it's kind of like, you know, if you book a family portrait in now, I'll throw in like a 10 by 12 photograph framed, you know, and it looks like this. It's probably going to cost Paul peanuts to do that, but because he's got access to wholesalers and he can access all that kind of thing, or he just provides it to them digitally, you know. But they're getting a picture and they think, oh, that's brilliant. So yes, no discounting allowed. So tip number 3, if you are showing up and you're being visible and you are adding value, then for the love of God, please put out a call to action, you know. And I call to actions call to adventures, because I don't like I'm not a salesy person, so I tend to stay away from call to actions. It's call to adventures. What can you do with that person now? And make sure that that call to adventure isn't hidden all the way at the bottom of the post. It's got to be in the headline. And actually now they're saying that your call to adventure has got to be in the image, because we are so used to seeing stuff that we're scrolling so quickly. So, you know, for every 4 messages that you put out, one of them should be a call to action. Now, to give you an example, the first 6 weeks of lockdown, I did nothing but 33-minute free strategy calls for people. And then I didn't sell them anything. They knew how to get in touch with me, but I was constantly booked up for the whole 6 weeks, because I just wanted to give back to people. I wanted to be able to show people that they could show up. What I'm now seeing is those people are now coming back to me and saying, I'm prepared to pay you for your, you know, can I sit down and have another hour with you, because I'm prepared to pay you for that. I haven't gone back to them and asked them that, But I do put out that that I do these paid hours. But I haven't directly called them and said, you know, we had a conversation 16 weeks ago. I really do think you have to buy my offer. I just present it in a way that it doesn't feel sleazy or salesy to them. So think about what your call to. When was the last time you actually put a call to action out? And actually, I got told off by a good friend the other day. She says, I haven't seen a call to action off you in about 3 weeks. I went, I said, I'm so busy. I said, I don't want to, because I have literally, the last 4 weeks have been mental. I said, I don't want to put a call to action out because it breaks my heart every time I have to say to somebody, I can't really fit you in for the next 3 weeks, because I think that sounds cheesy. And so I would rather not, you know, I just put out, I do put out little things, but nothing as predominant as than I was doing about 10 weeks ago. So what is your, so tip number 3 is what's your call to action? Tip number 4, you've probably heard this one before, you know, this is a brilliant time for you to really think about who your ideal client and where and what your niche is. You know, you can't sell to everybody, but when people say to me, my service is for everybody, I want to smack them in the mouth really quickly. You are not Amazon, right? You cannot, for the love of God, service everybody. There's 7.2 billion people in this world. You just can't do it. You'd be dead within a week. You'd be burnt out. So this is an ideal time for you to look at who your ideal client is and where do you actually want your business to be, you know? So I'm going to pick on Paul again because I've been picking on Paul. Paul, I don't know what kind of photography you do, Paul, but Paul might suddenly decide that actually going forward, he's only going to do pet photography. And this pet photography is going to be amazing and he's going to triple his prices, but he knows, you know, like pet photography is huge. So like, who do you sell to? Because you are not Amazon, you can't sell to everybody. And actually, your niche and your ideal client is critical to the profitability of your business and the long-term success of it. But it's also critical to your own mental state of mind, because there is nothing worse than selling a product or service to, I'm sure most of you on the call must have experienced it, to the absolute nightmare client who you cannot get rid of, who's calling you at midnight, or who's complaining on social media about your product or service. You could deliver, you could go and wrap it up in gold, like gold, and give it to them, and they would still go on social media and say that you're not a nice person. You know, you really don't want to be working with people like that. You tell them to jog on, you give them your competitor's number and you go bye-bye. It's like, oh, Claire, you don't want to buy off me? There's a big website out there called Amazon. Go and buy off them. You don't want my marketing services? Well, there you go. I'll give you 3 people. You go work with them. Because your time is precious. This is a brilliant time for you to work on it. And actually, if you have ever done any ideal client work or any niche work, you need to reevaluate that, because what has happened over the last 16 weeks is that people's buying habits have changed. And I don't think it will go back. Some retail, if you are in retail or if you have got a product, you definitely need to look at how you're going to sell that and present it and put it in front of people, because they've managed to train us quite quickly in the last 16 weeks to buy stuff in a very different way. And what is the problem that you actually solve? Because as I said to you, when you're doing your ideal client and you're doing your niche, there's nothing worse than somebody trying to sell you accountancies. You know, nobody really wants an accountant. Nobody really wants a solicitor. Nobody really wants a marketeer. You know, what we want from our accountant is to make sure that we're compliant with the tax, and that there's money in our profit, there's money in the bank at the end of the year, and actually that if I buy something, it's beneficial to my business. Hence the reason why I've just spent £1,500 on a new computer. You know, nobody really wants a solicitor. They just want to make sure that you win. It's all about winning at that point. I need to win. Nobody really wants a marketing consultant. They want somebody who's going to make sure that they get clients and that they, you know, they've got consistent leads coming into their business. So like, what is the problem that you actually solve? And stop using jargon. Like, don't turn up using, somebody said to me yesterday, as prime example, she said to me, I take you through a process where your value assessments are all aligned. And I just went, what? And she's a trauma counsellor. I went, so you're a trauma counsellor then. Why don't you just say you're a trauma counsellor? I don't want to be taken through a process to have my values aligned. Thank you very much. I'm 51 years of age. I think I've got my values aligned quite nicely. And if I haven't, I don't want you telling me, because in my head, I know my values aren't aligned and we're not having this conversation with you. But because she'd come out of the corporate world, she thought that she had to use all these corporate words. And I was just like, no, you know, you've got to be able to say, you've got to be able to present what you sell, whether it's a product or a service, like you are talking to a 5-year-old child. And then my final tip, which is the easy one, is you take all those 4 things, you design a 90-day plan, you execute it, you measure it, and you tweak it, and you rinse and repeat. So my top 4 tips for you is, please show up because your clients need you. Add value as cheaply as possible to you. You can all work out what your value offer is. What's your call to action? Make sure that you're putting a call to action out for every 4 messages that you're putting out there. You know, and this, unfortunately, that's the one that scares women quite a lot. Work on your ideal client and your niche. You know, where do you want your business to be? This is, you started your business for you. Make sure that whatever you do serves you and doesn't, you know, your clients really do come second, because otherwise you'll end up burnt out, rushed out, spending money, doing things, just going after the next shiny object. Oh my God, I need to be on TikTok. Oh my God, I need to be on LinkedIn. Oh my God, I need an email. I need a website. I need this. I need that. It's like, no, just stop and breathe. Where are my ideal clients? Where's my niche? Where are they hanging out? Am I putting my offer in front of them? If you're not doing any of those things, then tip number 5 is where you design a plan, you execute, you measure it, and you tweak it. Does that, and I've talked really quickly, but I am conscious of the fact that it is nearly 20 to 2. Does that make sense? Some of you are like, did that make sense, Richard? Did I talk really quickly? I do apologise.
Yeah, no, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's great. We have got a few questions for you.
Cool.
I think we'll go to Debbie's question first. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask the question yourself, Debbie?
Yeah, hi there.
Hiya.
I was going to ask, how do you know where to find your ideal client?
This is why you do your ideal client work, because, you know, sorry, Debbie, what do you do?
I'm an image and style consultant, colour consultant.
Okay. So, have you done ideal client work before? Have you?
A little, yeah, but it's quite vague at the moment, so I haven't honed in on it.
So something as quick as, you know, so pick on me, I'm Shamaine Robinson, 50, so your ideal client is Shamaine, she's 51 years of age, she's hit the menopause, nothing fits her, her colours are changing, her hair's going grey, she's having to change her wardrobe, she doesn't want, you know, half the stuff is out of date, she's put on loads of weight over lockdown, which I haven't actually, I've lost weight, but there you go, I just want to put that out there.
Oh, well done.
And she hasn't got much money to spend at the moment, so, you know, like, where does Shamaine hang out? Well, predominantly I hang out in female groups on Facebook because it's comfortable for me, so you'll find me in there a lot. I am on LinkedIn professionally, you know, so you can attack me from a professional point of view. Go searching for professional business owners on LinkedIn. And you can just reach out in groups, the best way to connect with your ideal client is to drop into groups and just ask questions. You know, have you struggled with, you know, have you at this age of, do people tell you that colour doesn't suit you? You know, what's your favourite colours? Because actually, normally that leads, can you tell I've had my colours done? Look. So it's like, if you really profile, you know, and what kind of problems has Shamaine got? You know, I've got menopausal problems. I think I'm single, but I'm not quite sure. My partner might disagree with that. You know, and it's like, what kind of magazines what kind of programs do I watch? Can you connect with me by putting something out about, say, if like, something's happened stylish, you know, could you connect with me on that level? Do I buy my clothes from, you know, like when Next opened back up, you could have said, isn't it amazing that Next has opened back up, because, you know, Shamaine shops at Next. those kind of things. This is why your ideal client's really important, because those little bits of detail will show you how you can go out and connect with them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're kind of probing as well, aren't you? You're gathering intelligence, I guess.
Yes, yeah, it's all stealth mode, because all marketing is the fundamentals of marketing is that just listen to what people are desperate to tell you what their problems are, right? We just don't listen. You spend 10 minutes with somebody and they will tell you what's wrong, and you just nod and agree, and you go, yeah, that's really, really interesting. Yeah, thank you for that. So, and when it's your turn to speak, you just go, you look at your notes, you go, so what you're really telling me, Shamaine, is that actually you've got a menopausal problem going on at the moment. Your hair's going a bit grey, your wardrobe doesn't fit. So, if we did a one-to-one virtual styling session and I showed you some things that might suit you, is that something that would be interested you? And I'd be like,
yeah.
All right, well, I can book you in next Tuesday or Thursday, and we can do it all online, and I can show you certain things, and then when the shops get open back up, we can all go shopping together and meet up for coffee and a glass of Prosecco. Would you like that? Oh my God, yes, please.
That's pretty much what I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we tend to rush in, and we tend to tell people what they want, and we don't listen to them. And then like I would say to you, you'd be able to say to me, so what shops do you buy from? I'm sorry, gentlemen, Debbie, I'm really struggling with a strapless bra at the moment. It's like, seriously, I'm about to lose it about strapless bra. It's like, it's like, I'm a big chested woman. I just want something that's going to stay up and not make me look like I'm Bet Lynch or something like that. It's like, these things are important to me. I'm going on holiday at the end of September. I want to be able to wear my dress off my shoulder. So show me some straps. But can't get my flaming dress to stand up. So
I work with a woman that does it online on Zoom now, and she's brilliant.
I've seen quite a lot of stylists just do Zoom calls where they've just give tips and advice, and they've taught people through their wardrobes, and they're showing people just how to put makeup back on because we just haven't used it. These are the things where you can add value, and it builds up a bank of content for you, so it helps with your marketing going forward. To me, it's like a no-brainer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Debbie.
Brilliant. Thank you. We've got another question from Graham. Do you want to ask your question, Graham?
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I was in a networking meeting this morning, and it was pointed out to us all that we could all be travelling the whole country, even the world, but certainly the UK, could be going to some very dark times from October onwards.
Yeah.
Furlough kicks out, and a lot of people may be redundant. And the question is, how can we all best prepare for what could be some quite dark times?
This is a good question, this, Graham, because it is a conversation that's going on, and I've had the misfortune over the years to work with the press, right? And the press are a content marketing company. They rely on the content being out there, and they rely on eyes on it. And what annoys me about the press is that they will spin as a story, and people will start to subconsciously believe that that is correct. Yes, we are heading into some sort of recession. That is obviously, important. But however, you work in web sales, do you?
SEO.
So you work in SEO. So it's like if businesses want to survive, they've really got to get their act together. They've got to. People know that they've got to spend. It's just reassuring people that if they want to come out the other end, you can help them, because if they don't start investing at some point, and actually a lot of businesses have had a lot of financial grants, or have got the opportunity to apply for financial grants, and you could probably help them with that. Yes, we are, and we can be mindful of that, but you know what, collectively we could all stick together and go, do you know what, together we're going to win this battle. We're going to put our heads down, we're going to work our asses off, and in 2 years time we're all going to be okay.
That's the point, really. I wasn't worried about myself. As you say, and you really, we're both in areas where we're not actually so badly affected by this. I've actually just got 2 jobs in 2 days, so but other people, I was more worried about other people, not myself.
Do you know what? This is a classic scenario, right? And I can say this with confidence now because of my age. I've bought into all the hype about we're hitting. I mean, like, you know, I was born in 1969. I've lived through some economic turmoil in my life. Yes, I haven't lived through a war, thank God. But, you know, I've lived through the winter of discontent. I've lived through Maggie, Blair, the recession, the financial crash. And one thing is consistent, right? People will tell you they've got no money. They will stand in front of you and they will say to you, I have got no money. Well, they're putting their hands in their pockets, buying their fags, getting a car, buying a new Hoover, buying a settee, ordering a Chinese. This is why your ideal client work is really important, because, you know, you don't want to be putting your offer in front of those people. I was at an event, which I should have been in Phoenix a couple of weeks ago, and the guy did it all online. There was 3,500 of us all online. And this one woman she was having a real wallow in self-pity. Oh my God, to get online, if you went to the conference would have cost you £2,500, right? And he did it all online for £99 for us. And this woman was like, oh, I don't know if I can afford £99. And I thought, I'm going to watch you because I know exactly what you're going to do. So I watched her and I get on quite well with her. And within 24 hours, not only had she paid the £99, but she'd also paid the extra $500 to upgrade to the VIP package. And then she bought the 10,000 Launch Club thing that was on. I was just like, but Jamie, you've got no money, love. You know, just don't listen to people when they tell you they've got no money. They just don't understand what you're selling, or they're not your ideal client. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's great. Caroline, do you want to add to that? Expand on your point there.
I'm looking for Caroline.
Sorry,
hello, lovely.
Yeah, fantastic to hear you, Charmaine. It's great to hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think mindset is absolutely critical, because regardless of what's going on around you, you kind of have no control over what's going on around you, and it will just stress you out and freak you out. When what you have got control is who you are and where you want to get to, what you want to achieve. So if you have in your head what you're trying to get to, what you want to achieve, and look for the positive ways you can get to it, then you can start building your steps forward. They don't have to be big steps. No. You know, little steps don't fail. It's you know, the big, huge steps that you take and you're going to trip and fall. So little steps, positive steps, even through dark times, will get you to where you need to be and keep you in the right frame of mind to get you through how you want to get through. And actually, if actually we all do that together collectively, we will get through it, because it's not just one person, it's everybody. We're all in it.
We are all in it together. And actually, one of the points that's been beneficial for me is on a mindset thing, is to make sure that I surround myself with the right people. So I'm very alert now when people started talking about that kind of mindset. I distance myself from them and I go towards the people who are going to uplift me, because that whole conversation in itself can drag you down. I mean, the start of lockdown, I was watching the updates every single day, and one day I was sitting there going, why am I doing this? Because I don't actually, it happened so quickly and so fast, it scared me that I could revert back to that so quickly. So actually, it's really important to surround yourself with people who are on the same wavelength as you and are going to speak the same as you, and they'll call you out over it as well. Yes, there is going to be a level of atrocity, I can't say that word, but just think about your local area at the moment. How many people have had building work done in the last 16 weeks? Yeah, look at the queues outside B&Q. But they've got no money, but they're all updating their houses. You know, the furniture stores have all started delivering sofas and all that kind of thing. DFS are even advertising again. It's like,
you can't even find a builder. There isn't a builder to be had.
You can't. Do you know what? You can't. Do you know? I tell you what is like reindeer poo at the moment. Webcams. Can't get my hand on a webcam for love nor money. But you can't find a builder, you can't find a painter, you can't find it. But there's no money. People, we're heading into a recession. You know,
things are not as easy as they were, and things will never be the same as they were. But just because they're different doesn't mean to say that they're going to be bad. No. They're just going to be different. They're going to be positive. And there are a lot of societal saboteurs around, and we collectively need to look at mindset and identify how we start to shift people's perceptions and look at different frames of reference and different views on how to move forwards in a positive way. It can be done.
The press can kill your business overnight, and I don't know if there's any bankers on here, but I'm about to upset you. Bankers can kill your business overnight, because that statistic of, you know, businesses failing in the first 3 years because of closed bank accounts, it's a load of bollocks. All we've done is switch bank accounts to another bank. It's like, but just because you've switched your bank, it's classified as your business failing. No, it's not at all. I've just switched back, or my business name's changed. So you've got to be really careful not to listen to the stories that are being put out, because a lot of it is about control. They want to be able to corral us and control us, because the economy is, you know, it's all about us paying taxes at the end of the day. But yes, that's another networking meeting altogether, Richard.
Well, talking of taxes, I just thought I'd try and bring Sharon into this. Sharon, as an accountant, how do you deal with clients who are maybe going through dark times, or are going to be looking at maybe dark times?
The only way anyone that's going to get through this is having a good plan. Even though we can't see what the future is going to hold and we haven't got crystal balls, you've got to have some kind of plan and control the controllables, we say. So definitely do a cash flow based on what you know, because that's better than worrying about what you don't know. So like with receiving the grants or the loans, what worries me, not with our clients because we're sorting them out, but what worries me is that people have got the grants in the bank and got the loans in the bank and are now going, brilliant, that might be their bank balance might be healthier than it's been in a long time, so they might think, oh, everything's fine. And I don't know, you meet people who've spent the same money 3 times in their head. I do it sometimes. So so you might be wanting a new website, take on staff. We're moving offices, but I've done a plan. But you need to plan it all out. And how do you know that money you've got now, how do you know it's going to be enough? Do you know it's going to be too much? Do you know when you can pay it back? So with the bounce back loans, obviously there's no repayments and no interest for 12 months. So we're saying this is the wrong advice for an accountant to give, but take it, because you're never going to get a better deal. But the big thing, it is repayable. So you've got a forecast plan in when you're going to pay it back, and take it as a cushion. If you don't need it, pay it back within the 12 months. It hasn't cost anything. So it's all about planning and putting just a really down and dirty cash flow forecast. What's the minimum income I know I'm going to get in, and what costs do I really have to pay? What can I delay, or what can I just cancel altogether? And so you know exactly where you are, and do that for your personal finances and your business finances. So you've got, and then you know whether you know what you've got to worry about. Then if you do find you've got a hole and you haven't got enough money, at least you can do something about that rather than worry about what you don't know.
Well, one of the things I find is half the clients I've worked with over the last 20 years, they don't even have a sales target for that month. So it's like there's no point even putting a marketing campaign or anything together if you don't know what your sales target is, because you can throw everything at it and you still don't know what results you get in. So even if you just like Sharon, that point is brilliant. Like even if you know what your bone basics are, that's the thing that gets you out of bed. And if you've got like your higher goal, that's the thing that makes you sit down in the evening to continue to do stuff and like that. But if you don't know what you're supposed to be bringing in each month, then how can you possibly successfully go out there and sell anything to anybody to begin with?
Yes. And if you have a good day, how do you celebrate the good days? You don't know what they are.
Yeah, you should. Yeah. And some people won't celebrate their good days because they're waiting for the bad day to turn up. And I'm like, well, your bad days will always turn up, and it's not about the one that gets me all the time is, well, I haven't sold anything this week. It's like, well, you're in a business where you don't potentially sell. Not every business sells every single day, every single week. I use Lego as a prime example. Lego nearly went to the wall about 10 years ago, but they did a really fascinating program documentary, and they managed to turn their business back around because they listened to the customers. They stopped putting out stuff that they thought they needed, and they went back to their original customers. They asked them what they want, they packaged it up, they went back out. Lego only make money in their business between Black Friday and Christmas. The other 9 months of the year is geared up to make sure that they can hit that. You know, they have a call center from Black Friday to Christmas, and in that call center there's 55 different languages. They've got to employ those people. They've got to put the technology on the ground. They've got to make sure that the phone lines work. They've got to make sure that the web connection works, because we all know how frustrating it is when you go to buy something and it's not happened. You'll click and you'll go. So Lego spend 9 months of the year making sure that they can deliver everything in those 3 months, because that's where they're making their money. So when I rock up at a networking meeting and somebody says, well, I haven't sold this week, I just turn around to them and go, so what? It's like, what is your sales figure? When should you sell? You need to be worried if you get to day 28 of the month and you've not sold anything, because you really do need to pull your fingers out. But, you know, it's like some weeks you're not going to sell, and some weeks, and things happen in seasons as well. So, like, what is your business season? You know, because now, ironically, you know, if you're even in lockdown, if you're a solicitor or a teacher, you're coming to the end of your season. It's getting quite quiet. You know, if you want to take something to court at the moment, you won't get a judge to sit now, because like coming up to the summer period, it's not happening. You know, some businesses completely shut down at Christmas, others don't, others flourish at Christmas. I've got a friend who only works for 3 months of the year. She works from September to December because she makes her killing then, and then she has the rest of the year off. You know, it's taken her a long time to do that, but it's like, what are the seasons in your business, and make sure that you are geared up to deliver, whether you're serving a product or a service. When are those periods for you?
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, Graham.
Just had one good tip this morning.
Yeah.
About helping, you know, in the forward, being positive and everything, and that was on LinkedIn. The tip was to join all the groups that have got Hereford associated with Hereford, because you never know what's going to come from it. There's loads on there, apparently. I haven't done it yet. Only this morning I heard it. But maybe that's something that we could all do, because it means we're going to be talking together more locally, you know, putting Hereford first and keeping us all afloat by doing as much pushing for each other and holding hands and clapping and everything else that we do for each other. So just a thought, Hereford businesses, Hereford groups on LinkedIn, join them, it might help.
Yeah, brilliant.
That's a good
Also
point.
on Facebook, join the groups on Facebook.
Join the business groups on Facebook. That's a good one.
Our group has just grown during lockdown. We've had a lot of people join and, you know, sharing and connecting. So yeah, if you're not already on our Facebook group, just search for Hereford Means Business and you'll find it in there. But yeah, groups is a definitely good way of connecting. Just to move on a little bit, Richard Lowe, do you want to expand on your point?
Which one was that?
Direct mail.
Oh, direct mail. Yeah, I mean, direct. If you look at what comes in the post all through lockdown, it's all been bills.
Yeah, it always is. Whether it's outside lockdown or in lockdown, it's mostly bills.
Yeah, and it's the biggest missed opportunity. If I was going to give a list of my top 10 marketing tips, direct mail would be right up there.
Yeah,
and it's a missed opportunity for pretty much most businesses.
Proper chunky mail, isn't it? It sends something out of value.
Yeah, I mean most people are chasing all the new online shiny stuff, which is great, but don't forget direct mail.
Direct mail and email marketing, and a website are the foundations of your business.
Yeah.
You know, there's I don't know if any of you have done 4N, but there's a guy in Bridgewater called Mike Gardner, and he's a copywriter, and he came and gave a talk a couple of years ago about how he did a direct mail piece. And this is a unique direct mail piece, but what he did was they identified 20 customers through LinkedIn, because he knew who the ideal client was and the niche, and it was proper professional coaching, and this package was £10,000. So they sent a proper life-size paddle to these 20 people on LinkedIn with something that I think the headline was, "Are you up shit creek without a paddle?" and the direct mail was about professional coaching services, and I think he converted 75% of them at £10,000 each, and the whole campaign cost £3,000 with the paddles to buy, and I think it generated something like something ridiculous like £65,000 worth of business. You know, when was the last time you received somebody? When was that? Like, I've got all my clients to send their clients stuff out through the post, and we use colourful envelopes because like nothing colourful comes through the door. You know, like if I was to send you something, I'd send something in a purple envelope. So you'd make the brand connection that it's, you know, once you started reading it, like, oh yeah, it's come from Shamaine. You know, it's not hard to do. You know, even if I just send you a chocolate bar or a little bottle of gin or something like that, you know, let's all get drunk together. It doesn't have to be a big thing. It could just be something, and it would mean the world to the other person who's received it, because as Richard says, we just don't get anything through the post anymore apart from bills and taxes.
There is another tactic that you can use, which is make your marketing, as in your envelope, look exactly like it is an invoice.
Yeah.
So use a C5 window envelope, but your letter is a proper marketing piece. And we use that tactic all the time, and it works perfectly.
I tell you what I get all my clients to do at Christmas. I get all my clients to send their clients Easter cards. Don't get Christmas cards, get Easter cards. Yeah. Looking forward to talking to you in the new year, they say. They remember it, and they always take their phone call.
Okay. Dennis, did you want to make your point?
Yeah, sorry, what it was, and I'm conscious that it's pointless name dropping if nobody's ever heard of them, but I had the great privilege last Monday to be in a Zoom meeting with Sir Martin Sorrell, who set up WPP, which is the world's largest advertising and PR agency by both staff numbers and revenue. And
I've worked with him.
And he knows, well, Shamaine, you know what he's talking about and what he actually said, and corroborate this with him, but what he wanted to emphasize in these current times, this isn't trying to be negative, but the level of delusion you can have at the top of an organization. The previous day, he'd had a Zoom call with 3 people, chief exec of an international hotel group, chief exec of an international airline, and chief exec of their biggest customer. So the hotel boy and the airline boy, and their biggest chief exec of their biggest customer. So he said it kicked off with and if you think about if anybody should be well informed, you'd expect to be chief execs of multinationals. So it kicked off with the chief exec of the hotel group, who said, do you know what? It's been tough. Lockdown's easing worldwide. We're getting the semblance of recovery coming through. Do you know what? We've survived. By September, October, happy days, be almost back to normal. The airline boy pretty much repeated exactly the same mantra, you know, the positivity, etc., etc. Then it came, and Martin said you could have heard a pin drop. It came to the chief exec of their biggest customer, who said, I, from the 1st of July, have cut my travel budgets to 0, and I have told all of my staff to think more and travel less.
Yeah.
And he said these 2 chief execs who you think would be on top of their game and would know the thought processes behind their most important customer would have known that. And he said it didn't. And that's where, so I love the positivity, but I just thought if you can have delusion at the top of 2 multinationals, then there may well be other organizations. And very quickly, sorry, I don't mean to dominate, but
no.
And I really am I promise you, normally optimistic by nature. But for our creative industry, Oxford Economics released on the 15th of June, the most in-depth report that's been done into creative industries this year. And what it said comparing 2020 to 2019, obviously, they'd only got the figures for the first 5 months to May, and they'd extrapolated from a very low base the rest of the year. But these figures terrified me, because from 2020 to 2019 for the creative industries, they were forecasting a reduction in income of 74 billion. They were forecasting 400,000 job losses. And so the thing is for me, as the sales director for a marketing agency in our 34th year, and I genuinely couldn't tell you hand on heart if we're going to make our 35th, and that isn't being negative at all. But my fear is that, and I love the success stories you've had, and the lady is charging 1,500 quid an hour and got a 6-month contract. Happy days, I want to marry her. But for me, my concern is that if as an agency with overheads moving forward, competing with people who are now going to be working from home in their bedroom, my fear is that it will be a race to the bottom, and what previously would have been a £500 job will now, you'll have somebody eminently capable of doing it for £5 and a bag of chips. And I'm normally optimistic by nature, I promise you, and that wasn't a question I appreciate, but just random.
No, all the points you've raised, you know, they're completely valid. You know, like if you've been in business for the last 34 years, then you'll appreciate when organisations like Fiverr and all that came around. The problem the problem that we think the big boys have got it all together. We think that they understand what's going on, and they haven't got, pardon my French, an effing clue. 9 times out of 10, the CEO is so distantly removed from the day-to-day operation, it's quite frightening. And I think the benefit that we have, Dennis, is that we can pivot quite quickly, and we can change our offering, and we can show our clients just how important it is, and stand our ground a lot quicker than they can. And we can come up with more creative ideas a lot faster than like a hotel chain can.
Can I say this one? Sorry, just to actually emphasise that, because the thing is, sorry to interrupt, but if I don't say it now, I'll forget. But I totally agree, because he said, what you can't do, you can't be wedded to what you've done before COVID.
No, you can't.
You know what? And the thing is, and he said, business operates in waves, and what COVID has done is foreshortened. So a wave which would have taken 2 or 3 years to progress through can now be done in 2 or 3 minutes. And unfortunately, I think Sharon's gone. But the other thing which he said as well, and I wouldn't want to contradict Sharon, but I will now, she's gone, is that when they talked about, he said that another meeting he had, he had this bloke who came in who was an FD of a FTSE 100 company, and the first thing he wanted to do was roll out his three-year plan. And the first thing that Martin said is, unless you've got a crystal ball in the current environment, you can't plan further than 3 days ahead. So what the hell are you doing bringing me a 3-year plan? Because, it ain't worth the paper it's written on. To say that to a FTSE 100 FD, pretty ballsy, but it's true.
It is true. And I think, again, but it's back to the advantage of being a small business. I don't think any small business should work on a plan that is longer than 3 months, so 90 days, which is why that's become quite a big, because you've got to be able to measure, tweak and pivot. But what I've seen a very frightening statistic, and I can't remember the exact figures on it, because what COVID has done for the big creative agencies, it's shown them that their days are numbered, because there's a massive cut in TV advertising, there's a massive cut and stuff like that, and they're going to have to get online. Now, the joke of it is they've had 20 years to do this, right? So they are cutting back on traditional, what me and Dennis would call traditional marketing. So there's going to be a cut in TV advertising, there's going to be a cut in online billboards and that kind of thing, because there just isn't the footfall, and they're going to be putting it more into digital. So that then means that small businesses are going to get squeezed out at the other end on Facebook ads and all that kind of thing. You're going to see an increase in that kind of stuff. So, but if you use that, mentality, you'd be thinking, well, I'll just close my business now. But the reality is that something else will come and fill that gap for small businesses, because 10 years ago we didn't have the technology that we have now. It's never been so, as Dennis has pointed out, it's never been so cheap and easy for other people to start businesses. Anybody can, organisations like Fiverr.com, you can get a graphic design done for, a £5, for God's sake. Doesn't mean they're going to get something of quality. I think it just means that actually we've got to really hunker down, work out who it is that we want to work with, what is it that we offer to them, and just almost like a French Revolution thing, and just stand our ground. And it's like, because I think we will be hit, but there has to be a lot of wood cut from organising. The fact that British Gas can stand up and announce that 5,000 jobs are going, you've got to ask who's been running the company, for God's sake. If you can suddenly get rid of that many people that quickly, then there was clearly a restructuring problem in there to begin with, and I think some industries have had their day, and I think more small businesses will shine. So I agree to about 90% of what you're saying, Dennis, completely. And I've worked with Martin. I used to work for an health board, and they were one of the agencies that did a lot of work for us. And I don't think 5-year plan, like there's a thing that's gone viral on Facebook this week about, in 2015, when somebody asked you where you wanted to be in 5 years time, I bet it wasn't right here, right now, was it? But that's the beauty, for me, that's the beauty of being self-employed, is that we can plan and pivot so quickly and so fast. What stops us is what's in between our hair. Oh, we can't do that, we can't do, And if you've got an agency, then yes, I can. And overheads, that is completely difficult. That's a different conversation to be had altogether. But the work will be there, and people will always pay for quality over crap at the end of the day. It's whether we've got Martin's balls to stand up and say, do you know what? If you want me, I'm this price. Yeah. I can give you 10 people who's always cheaper. And watch them come back to you in 18 months. And this is where Dennis goes, don't know if I'll be in 18 months. I'm sure you will. If you've been around for 34 years, well, no, it's like you just want to retire and go and play golf, don't you?
And keeping it all things Hereford, it was us back in the day. Nothing to do with me, because I don't design, but we actually did the Tyrrell's branding and the old style packaging, etc.
Yeah,
so
but look how Tyrrell's came about. Tyrrell's didn't exist until Tesco's pulled the potato contract on them overnight.
£1 million worth of advertising like that overnight. Yeah. They couldn't have bought it. Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
There is you can wallow. Or you can think to yourself, what am I going to do? And actually, when Tesco's came back to when Tyrrell's were quite a big brand, it took Tyrrell's a long time for them to allow the crisp to be sold in Tesco's, because they just wouldn't put. Now they are, but it was just like they literally cut the price on their potato by 80% in 24 hours, which is just mind blowing. But I love their crisps. Yeah, so keeping it Hereford, I love Tyrrell crisps. There are opportunities, and I think sometimes those opportunities are just on the edge of our comfort zone, and it's whether you're prepared to do a Peter Pan and fly, because I think they are there. You just got to look for them sometimes.
I think everybody's got a dark place that they're not quite prepared to go into, and that dark place is where the opportunity is. And this is a vacuum that actually will be filled by new things. You can plan, but in that planning you have to have agility. Whether you're an individual or whether you're a big organization, if you're agile, you can actually shift and turn with the shifts and turns that we have at the moment. It's about having that.
And if that means you've got to cut back in some areas for the next 6 months to be able to be in a better financial place in 2 years' time, how beneficial is that to you in the long run? If you can manage to live, if it means you're living on baked beans for 6 months, at some point within our in our lives we've been students or something, we've been there, done that. It's like, if that means that in 2 years' time you'll have something else, then it's all about being realistic in a lot of ways. A lot of people aren't realistic. They want it all now, and the world's not like that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Great. Has anyone else got any other quick comments? I know we have gone over time. We have lost a few people, but
I love Kim's dog. I just want to say I like Kim's dog.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Shamaine. That was a brilliant talk and a brilliant session. I hope that people have benefited from it. Thank you. We will be back in 2 weeks' time on the 15th of July, and hopefully I think we have someone from the Council's Economic Development Department joining us. I'm not sure which one it is yet. There are more grant funding and things that's going to be available coming up, and they want to share with us what's going on from the council's point of view. So we will have that next time. We did have some other questions to do with furlough and stuff, but Caroline, I wonder if you could answer those in an email for me, and then I can add that to the chat afterwards, and then we can move on next time to what the council's got to say. But that's it. We've gone over time. Thank you again, Shamaine.
Thank you for having me.
we will get this recorded and onto YouTube as soon as possible. And for everyone else, we'll hopefully see you in 2 weeks' time on the 15th of July.
Cool.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.